and those who have joined us via the various social media platforms and PBCJ live stream. Clark, call of the roll.
Mr. Clark, Mr. Green, Dr. Holness, Dr. Chang, Mrs. Williams, Mr. Bartlett, Ms. Grange, Dr. Tufton, Mr. Mackenzie, Mr. Montague, Mr. Vaz, Mr. Chuck, Mr. Charles Jr., Mr. Morgan, Mrs. Marks, Mr. Samuda, Dr. Wheatley, Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn, Mr. Terrelong, Mr. Whittle, Mrs. Dalrymple Filbert, Ms. Morrison, Ms. Lee, Mr. Donovan Williams, Mr. Main, Ms. Crawford, Mr. Delroy Williams, Ms. Hamilton, Mr. Sivright, Mr. Azan, Mr. Brown, Dr. Brownberg, Mr. Buchanan, Mr. Bunting, Ms. Burchell, Mr. Campbell, Mr. Cousins, Mr. Crawford, Ms. Daly, Dr. Dawes, Mr. Golding, Mr. Gordon, Mr. Hales, Mr. Hines, Mr. Hilton, Mr. Jackson, Ms. Jess, Mrs. Malahoo Fort, Mrs. Miller Bennett, Mr. Morris, Mrs. Nita Garvey, Mr. Newell, Mr. Paulwell, Mr. Phillips, Ms. Perkis, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Robinson, Dr. Russell, Ms. Shaw, Mr. Smith, Mr. Dwayne Vaz, and Mr. Warmington. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
We will have circulated today Speaker's ruling, order of speaking and use of microphones in accordance with Standing Order 32 of the House of Representatives, which governs the time and manner of speaking. I wish to clarify procedures regarding the use and operation of the microphones within the chamber. Standing Order 32 provides that a member desiring to speak shall rise in his or her place, and if called upon, shall address his observations to the speaker or chairperson. No member shall speak unless called upon by the speaker or chair. If two or more members raise at the same time, the speaker or chair shall call upon the member who first catches his or her eye. To enhance the efficiency and orderly conduct of proceedings and to afford members who avail themselves of a better opportunity of catching the speaker's eyes, members who wish to speak shall raise their hand, whereupon their names will be recorded by the table clerk. The speaker will acknowledge members in the order in which their names are recorded. Members may only address the House and operate the microphone once formally recognized by the speaker. Any attempt to speak without being acknowledged or to manipulate the microphone system independently is forbidden, as it disrupts the orderly conduct of business and is inconsistent with the principles of the Standing Order 32. Ministers who are answering questions must keep their microphone on until both the question and answer session is completed. Similarly, members who are posing questions should keep their microphone on until they are satisfied their questions have been sufficiently answered. This procedure is intended to prevent multiple microphones being activated simultaneously and to ensure that the sound system operates efficiently. I will circulate. So members, this is literally because of some of the chaos we had last week. So if a member has their microphone on and the person turns it off and then they need clarification or they want to do follow-up, they are now out of line in terms of being able to continue. Someone else takes precedence. In the same way, the minister who we had expected to answer the questions would have turned their microphone off. And based on how the system operates, we now would have to turn all mics off to get the minister to be able to respond. So, for some persons who weren't listening, I'm going to repeat. Ministers who are answering questions must keep their microphone on until both the question and the answer session is completed. That way, anyone who has a question of the minister and the minister needs to be able to respond, their mic is always on and is therefore not in the sequence that disturbs the members of the House making an effort to have a question answered by that minister. Similarly, and the member who is speaking, I want you to listen. Similarly, members posing questions should keep their microphone on until they are satisfied that their questions have been sufficiently answered. This procedure is intended to ensure that the operations of the House is efficient. Last week, we would have had persons who needed to do clarification, follow-up, but by then you had turned your mic off and another member's mic is now on. The mic system is a very efficient system because it allows each member without any bias to be able to speak one after the other. However, when we have a situation where persons turn their mic off or the minister answering questions has completed their presentation statement by minister and turned their mic off, it literally disrupts the system. To complete, when two or more members raise to speak, I retain complete discretion over who is called. And this is consistent with Standing Order 32 and the established parliamentary practice. You may also look at Erskine May Parliamentary Practice, 25th edition, page 484. The rules regarding recognition, raising in one's place, and addressing speaker or chair are not optional. They are essential to maintaining the dignity, decorum, and efficiency of the House. Members, will immediately circulate same. House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you for that clarification. I think it will help in relation to the orderly functioning of the House. Today, Madam Speaker, we do have a statement by Minister, the Honorable Matthew Samuda, the Minister of Water, Environment, and Climate Change.
Minister from St. Anne Northeast, member from St. Anne Northeast, the Minister of Water, Environment, Climate Change, will now make his statement.
Madam Speaker, I crave members' indulgence because even while I was sitting here, the most recent update would have just come to us from the NOA in terms of their exchange with the Met Service. So this statement is actually being printed upstairs now currently, but I have shared the digital copy in our caucus, and I've shared it with opposition leader of business to share digitally in your caucus groups that you can follow digitally in the interim while the printing is taking place. With your leave, Madam
Minister, your indulgence. Members, we are on the agenda item statement by ministers for the record.
Madam Speaker, I rise this afternoon to update this honorable House and the people of Jamaica on the development of Tropical Storm Melissa, which has formed over the Caribbean Sea and is now posing a threat to several territories in our region, including our beloved island. Madam Speaker, Melissa's formation is a sobering reminder that this year's Atlantic hurricane season will not be ending quietly. As of this morning, reports from the National Hurricane Center, the division of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in the USA, which tracks and predicts tropical cyclones, indicated that the storm is churning approximately 480 kilometers, which is approximately 300 miles south of Port-au-Prince, Haiti, or 630 kilometers southeast of Morant Point, with maximum sustained winds of 50 miles per hour and or approximately 85 kilometers per hour. Now that the area of low pressure has strengthened to a tropical storm, the system has slowed significantly and further decreased in the forward speed, and further decreases in the forward speed is indeed projected. Hence, the system is likely to linger in the Caribbean waters for the next few days and take a little while longer to reach our shores. We are now expecting to start experiencing heavy rains sometime tomorrow night at current projections. But to note that the situation is indeed fluid and the Hurricane Center and our own Met Service is indeed monitoring closely. Now that the area of current projections show that it could intensify to a Category 1 hurricane by latest Saturday, fueled by unusually warm waters of the Caribbean at this time of the year. I must emphasize that the increased heat is no doubt in our mind related to broad-based global climate change. At present, a tropical storm watch has been issued for Jamaica. While the forecast remains uncertain, meteorological models suggest that Jamaica could experience heavy rainfall, gusty winds, and possible flash flooding, especially in the east, as the storm tracks northward later this week. We are particularly mindful of the potential for landslides in our mountainous parishes, especially in areas where soil saturation is already high, as we would have seen the October rains on in earnest even this afternoon. Madam Speaker, while the center of Melissa's projected path currently points towards Hispaniola, the storm's proximity to Jamaica demands our highest level of vigilance. As we have learned through experience, tropical systems of this nature can shift course with little warning, and even indirect impacts can bring significant disruption to lives, livelihoods, and property. Our emergency management teams, under the coordination of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, ODPEM, are on full alert. Importantly, I want to assure you that your government is working tirelessly to ensure that the systems we have developed to protect you are indeed activated. The Met Service of Jamaica, for which I have portfolio responsibility, continues to monitor the storm's movement closely and will provide continuous updates as new data becomes available. This administration is one that puts the concept of joined up government certainly into practice. So the Met Service and ODPEM have been collaborating closely to ensure a smooth flow of information and preparatory activities. Relevant ministries and agencies have been advised to activate their preparedness protocols. In this respect, I'm also speaking and sharing on behalf of my colleague, Minister Desmond McKenzie,
the minister responsible for ADPEM, who is overseas on personal business. We are in close contact and continue to monitor to ensure that we're able to help Jamaica navigate this tropical storm threat. As you are aware, ADPEM is the country's primary disaster preparedness response agency and works closely with all local authorities in the preventative phase of disaster management. In this respect, disaster coordinators are on alert to assist potentially vulnerable persons in our communities across the island. Additionally, the island-wide network of 881 shelters will be made available as the need arises, and the shelter managers are already on alert and preparing the designated spaces. Later today, at 3:30 p.m., the National Response Team will be meeting to evaluate the situation and the next steps. This team is coordinated by the ADPEM and involves a wide range of stakeholders, including the Met Service and municipal corporations. On behalf of Minister Morgan, I am advising also that the NWA is currently assessing drains and will take necessary emergency action based on the current threat assessment. Madam Speaker, it is not lost on us that Melissa is the 13th named storm of the season, but notably the first to form in the Caribbean Sea. This detail is significant. The extended period of calm in our region allowed sea temperatures to rise to record levels, creating what scientists now call rocket fuel for storm intensification. This is yet another stark demonstration of the urgent climate reality confronting small island developing states like Jamaica, a reality that demands both local preparedness and continued advocacy for global climate action. It is important to note that Jamaica is coordinating with our foreign partners while monitoring the storm with its fully operational Doppler radar system. In the coming days, we will continue to prioritize public safety, accurate communication, and coordination among all government and community partners. We urge citizens, particularly those in flood-prone and low-lying areas, to remain attentive to official advisories, avoid misinformation, and take all necessary precautions. I encourage all citizens to monitor updates from the Met Services, ADPEM, JIS, and indeed the JCF. There is no need for citizens to panic, but there is the need to prepare and to follow official sources of information. Madam Speaker, I want to assure you that your government, led by the Most Honorable Prime Minister, who is also Chairman of the National Disaster Risk Management Council, stands ready to respond to any eventuality. While we hope that Tropical Storm Melissa will spare our island significant impact, as it appears it may, we must prepare for the worst, even if we pray for the best. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. The member from St. Mary Central.
Madam Speaker, I rise today thanks to the people of Central St. Mary who have reposed their confidence in me as their Member of Parliament, and Opposition Leader Mark Golding, who has appointed me to shadow the portfolio, who has appointed me to shadow the portfolio. I want to congratulate Minister Matthew Samuda on being assigned to his own ministry. I know previously he was the minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation with responsibility for the portfolio. But climate change, as I've always thought, deserves its own ministry. And I want to applaud him on being appointed to that ministry. We on this side stand ready to work with the government to ensure that our people, the people of Jamaica, have access to proper information, to accurate information, and to timely information as we prepare for what may come. But we're not altogether pleased, Minister. Events of this nature, we believe, are things we can prepare for. We know that one of the results of climate change has been more adverse weather conditions. And as a new member of this House, I find it unfortunate that I have not been a part of any briefing to advise me on what preparatory steps have been taken to get us ready during this disaster period. I'm told, Madam Speaker, that sometime in the summer, Madam Speaker, I'm told that sometime in the summer, some funds would have been provided for drain cleaning. I imagine a lot of those drains have now blocked up, and a lot of those verges have experienced overgrowth. And people in places like Port Maria will not go to bed confident tonight that should the rains come later on, they will have the safety. And I note, Madam Speaker, that the Minister of Local Government was mentioned. I want to point out that the councillors in the St. Mary Municipal Corporation indicate that the last allocation they received was for July. And so they are not in any position to step in and address with the readiness. So while we pray for help, and while we hope for help, and while we wish for help, Madam Speaker, we had an opportunity to prepare, and we did not adequately prepare. Madam Speaker, I also want to speak on behalf of some of my colleagues who welcomed the Spark program, which should have been addressing some of the roads and drains in their various constituencies. The reports I have received, Madam Speaker, is that some of those roads have been dug up, pipes have been burst, roads are in a state of disrepair, and people are worried about what the condition will be when these heavy rains come down in the next 48 hours. We also came here today, Madam Speaker, to hear, since there was no preparation for what may come, and not all the fault of the minister, because the Ministry of Works and Local Government had a role to play in the preparation. But since there's no evidence of preparation, Madam Speaker, we were hoping to hear that some emergency steps would have been taken to ensure that we can get some of those drains clean, to mitigate against the possible flooding that will come. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Minister spoke about the island network, the island-wide network of 881 shelters that will be made available as the need arises. I would love an update on the state of these shelters, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would love an update on the state of the bedding and on the availability of food in these shelters to take care of the people, the vulnerable, who may have to retreat to these shelters. 11 seconds. So, Madam Speaker, while we stand ready to work and to support and to provide timely and accurate information, we need more than word from the government of the day, Madam Speaker. We need action from the government to get us to a state of ready as we anticipate this storm. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank.
No, that's a
Would you be so kind as to take your seat, member? Member Daly, you had stepped in late. I'm asking you not to turn your mic on. You will be able to take a look at the ruling, which was read out before you came into the sitting. That's why your mic is going off. All right, so members, in this order, your hands were raised. The member from St. Mary Southeast was first, the member from St. Catherine Eastern after, then the member from Kingston Eastern after that, the member from St. Andrew Southeast was fourth. And I was asking, that's why she came down to confirm if you were gesticulating for the member beside you or yourself. I never saw. And the last person was Dr. Brownberg, member from Southwest St. Andrew. So members, it is not funny. I know we like to be hilarious. However, this is important to ensure that we don't spend our sessions at Parliament going over mic proceedings. It is very disorderly. And every effort was made to conceptualize a mechanism that is in keeping with the standing order, but that works for you. I can send for him. It will be the same. Speaker is the speaker. It doesn't matter which of the two of us. Minister, equally, I'm asking you, once you've turned on your mic to commence responding to questions, that you do not turn it off until the session is complete, as a reminder. Let's see how that system works today. There's one member who said his hand was up. Member from Clarendon, you said your hand was up? Because I didn't see you. Yeah. I didn't see him either. All right, so members, let's go. Question from St. Mary's Southeast, please. Question.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I have the honor of rising as a member from Southeast St. Mary.
Let me stop that right now. You will have an opportunity, every member of this house, to do your constituency debate and to grandstand.
Thank you.
At statement by Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister.
Member from St. Mary. Member from St. Mary Southeast.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member from St. Mary Southeast.
Yes.
For those persons who are not au fait with the standing orders and the operations of Parliament, I will advise you. Statement by Minister is followed by a 5-minute response. It is the only response that is made in the House to a statement by Minister. After which, only questions are taken. And your questions need to be exactly that.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Once again,
Madam,
Please avail yourself of Standing Order 11A with also emphasis on Standing Order 17, subsection 2.
thank you, madam.
Proceed,
Madam
please.
Speaker, simply saying that I am pleased to stand in the capacity as member from Southeastern St. Mary. And I want to thank the minister for his statement. Landslides are a feature of these systems that are before us and that we are discussing today. In fact, over the past
Members, I am sure all of us, please take your seat. Members, if you would like to proceed, the order in respect of statement by ministers, and I'll reiterate it because I do not think any member is desirous of standing and making a statement when you have been advised by the speaker that it is not to be done. You are required to stand and ask your question. And it is for the efficient order of this honorable House. And it is for every single member of the House. So members, whether from the government side or the opposition side, may ask a question. And it is only a question that you're allowed to ask at this juncture. It is necessary. No, it's not going to be member from Northwest St. Anne, from Northwest St. Catherine. You say one member. And if I call your name based on the standing orders, so we could have finished long time, but it is obvious that it is going to be a consistent practice. So it ends today right here. Member, when you're called, ask your question and take your seat. Keep your mic on in the event that your question is not properly answered. Members, additionally, do not stand and ask a question that was already asked. Member from St. Mary, Southeast.
thank you very much, Madam Speaker. So as I was saying in framing my question, Madam Speaker and Minister, land slippage has been a feature of these systems. In fact, over the past few days, we have had a lot of rains in Southeast, and we have had significant landslides blocking several roads. In terms of the engagement with the NAA as it relates to clearing of these roads, Minister, I'm advised that there's a reluctance on the part of the contractors
Member,
to...
Member, point of order.
Yes.
Point of order. The question being asked by a member must be related to the statement made by the minister.
But I'm doing there. I'm doing that.
The minister is not in charge of landslide.
But we
You
are
can ask
talking
me a
about the system.
question. Okay? new members need to know the rules. You can't go landslide and road on the environment and climate change. It has nothing to do with what it said. The question must be related to the statement made by the minister. That be in relation to the statement by the minister.
Yes. May I proceed, Madam Speaker? The member who raised the...
No member, your
Can I proceed?
leader of opposition business stood. Would you be so kind as to allow him?
Madam Speaker, I am very much aware of your intention, but I just am asking, Madam Speaker, especially as questions are framed, for there to be some leeway in allowing the member, especially where the issue is already raised in the statement, as it was. And it was just in reference to that statement that the question was being framed. I'm asking, Madam Speaker.
He didn't stand on a point of order. However, he was given the latitude as he was speaking on behalf of the members on his side of the House. So that's why I permitted the member to speak. Thanks, opposition, leader of opposition business. Members, I am happy to sit here very quietly until you are ready to continue with the sitting. Member from St. Mary Eastern, from St. Mary Southeastern.
Thank you, Madam
The
Speaker.
member who rise on a point of order from St. Catherine Southwest is actually correct. I have heard the pleadings of the leader of opposition business in the House. However, the statement by the minister is as it relates to the weather system, even if reference is made to landslides. In respect of questions you're asking about landslides and clearing of blockage and its connection to NAA, or in fact, even, that's what he asked. I listened to his question. I'm not sure if some persons even listen. It would not be an appropriate question for the minister based on the statement he made.
But with
So
all due
phrase your question in keeping. And members,
Madam Speaker, the issue that we are discussing in terms of the system...
no, member, ask your question. And that's not an appropriate question.
Can they, and thank you for allowing me, Madam Speaker.
Ask your question.
Can the minister advise me and the House if, because as I said, there is a difficulty in terms of contractors indicating that they are not getting paid to clear the road.
Member, please take your seat. Member, take your seat. The member from St. Mary Southeast, please take your seat. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I think, as has been said, I think the House would flow a lot better if members would go directly to the question, right? There is no need for a preamble, right? Just ask the question as you were about to do, and then we would recognize that the question that you were about to ask is not in the remit of the minister who gave the statement. So I would say to members, just go directly to the question. If there is need for additional clarification, when the ministers are answering, they will ask. Just ask directly the question.
The member from St. Catherine East, you may now turn your mic on.
So, Madam Speaker,
No, you don't have any more questions. Do you have any other questions, member? So, member, once again, I hope you took note, ask your question. And member, this is an observation that has been said to every single member of parliament in the previous dispensation. And I would want to also say it for the benefit of every member here. None of us as members of parliament are to be involved in any procurement and contract arrangements. So please refrain from those type of statements or questions.
You know, I sit here and I listen. It's what is going on in the House of Parliament. It's literally dictatorship. And the People's National Party calls it on themselves.
The arrangement of turning on your mic is what allows you to speak. If your mic is off, you should not speak in the House. That is the standing orders.
That is her house. This is her house up at Beverly Hills.
thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and that's why I was given the context, but I'll ask the question specific. Is the minister aware that the outstanding payments to contractors
No. Member from St. Mary Southeast, take your seat. Member from St. Catherine. Member from St. No. The member from St. Catherine Southwest, what is your point of order, sir?
The issue I've already ruled on that issue. Payments by NW has nothing to do with Minister of Environment, Climate Control and Water. And he makes no mention in the statement by Minister. Questions must be related to the statement made by the Minister. And you already ruled on that. Did he talk about payment? You nincompoop. Did he speak about payment?
The member from St. Catherine East. The member from St. Catherine East, please ask your question.
No.
I want to say something.
I'm telling you to apologize to the person.
Leader of the opposition. Leader of the opposition. Leader of the opposition, you may make your statement on the mic as the leader of the opposition bench so that I can have it properly recorded.
I wish to state that members of parliament are
What's your
not.
point of order, member?
I find the line of questioning by the member to be very dangerous, as members of parliament are not party to contracts between the National Works Agency and the contractors. So it is very dangerous for a member without having access, unless they have access to the books of the National Works Agency, to stand in parliament to make claims about payment of contractors without providing any evidence of it. Are you a party to a contract between the government and contractors? It's a very dangerous activity, Madam Speaker. Very
Thank you,
dangerous.
member. House Leader.
So, Madam Speaker, I appreciate that we do have new members in the House. And, you know, it does not have to be in a spirit of acrimony. The Speaker is trying to give directions in relation to the question that is being asked, guidance. Now, the standing orders say clearly that the proper object of a question is to obtain information on a question of fact which is in the official cognizance of the minister to whom it is addressed. So if the minister of environment gets up and speaks, and you start by asking him about the NWA, which is not under, you start by asking him, guys, you start by asking him about the NWA, which is not under his purview, then that would not be a proper question. That's what the speaker is saying. So once you start like that, then the speaker and other members will intervene to say that on a point of order that is not what is meant. So what I would say to you, Speaker, if the member can ask a question that does not fly in the face of the standing orders, that is something that the minister has under his portfolio, there will be no problem. So if you ask that question, fine. But if you don't, if you start with something, then the speaker will intervene. Thank you, Speaker.
Members, as Speaker of this Honorable House, I listen very keenly to the statements made when questions are to be asked. The question being asked by the member is improper and so ruled. Please move on from that statement. It is your third time being told. Your third time being told. You may ask for clarification, member from St. Catherine Northwest.
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, a statement was made today by minister who is appointed to a particular portfolio. In that statement, paragraph 5, the minister said, and I quote, "We are particularly mindful of the potential for landslides in our mountainous parishes, especially in areas of soil saturation is already high." Therefore, I am confused as to how it is that it is not appropriate within a question to this particular statement, regardless of the minister's portfolio. The minister was appointed by the government to make this particular statement. Therefore,
without being properly briefed.
Member, thank you very much. You may take your seat. No, member, you may take your seat. Member, take your seat, please. Member, take your seat, member. Don't, member, take your seat. Member.
Dictatorship start in Jamaica. This is a dictatorial government. And the people of this country must see what is going on in the parliament of Jamaica. The people of Jamaica must see what is going on. And as a matter of fact, they are the
Member.
If Matthew Samuda said something, come on now. What on earth is going on in this country? What on earth is going on in this country? But you know what? The Jamaican people ask for this, so they get it. Andrew no want, Andrew no shall get. I have never seen in all my entire life watching parliament in this country. I have never seen something like this. Never. I have never seen something like this. But all of them are friends anyhow. Every single one of them inside there is friends. The speaker is reading the standard order book. So that's why it's silent at the moment. But everyone Warmington should apologize to the person who he called Ninkompu. Isn't that unparliamentary? All of them inside there are going to listen. When the parliament finish, they're going to have their drink together and laugh together. So we shouldn't worry about them. God help this country of ours. Jamaica is becoming a banana republic, and it starts from in the parliament.
Questions. Page 8 of standing orders. Number 14, nature of questions. Questions may be put to a minister relating to any subject or department with the responsibility for which he has been charged, or with regard to which he has been assigned the responsibility of answering the questions. Member. Members.
Let me say this. I know for a fact that majority of them inside there, they are business partners and they are friends. So don't come and tell me that they are no friends. They are friends. And when all of this hullabaloo is finished, they go to a bar downstairs, garden house, and they drink rum.
Members, are there any more questions? Members, are there any more questions?
Madam Speaker, I had written to you earlier. I'm not too sure if you had.
Member, please do not speak about writing to me earlier unless it is that you are aware that your communication has reached me. I have nothing that you have written to me about. So Leader of Opposition Business, any statement you will be making in respect of writing me, I would like to be written to and see such first. Statement by ministers. My last ask, are there any other questions on this statement by minister?
Madam Bully of the Parliament.
Any other question on this statement by minister? Leader of Opposition Business, you would have to come and indicate to me exactly of what you speak. Because, yes, you may approach.
You know, we are the only persons who take this hullabaloo seriously, you know. But who have been a part of the parliament and the ins and outs of the parliament of Jamaica. I know for a fact the majority of them inside there, they're friends, they're benching behind. And they're business partners. So they're only doing that now to make the Jamaican people that believe that they're not friends. But what I can say to you, that Jamaica is going on a road of no return. The parliament has become a dictatorial parliament. As Member Philip Palwell, opposition leader of the House of Parliament, is speaking to Jamaica's dictatorial speaker, the wife of the Prime Minister, Mrs. Juliet Holness. She's calling her children. All of them inside there is her children. And she's calling them. They better sit inside there and listen to what she says. It's her house. I want to remind her that the House of Parliament don't belong to she nor her husband. It's the people's house. And you all must go in there and do the people's business. You only meet once a week. You getting how much money? And only go in there and disrespect the Jamaican people. The House of Parliament belongs to the people of Jamaica, not to Juliet Holness or Andrew Holness, or any other member of Parliament in the House. It's a dictatorial parliament we see going on in this country. Dictatorship taking over. But all we can see, all of us can see, is the color green and the color orange. I tell you something, our corners dark in this country. Our corners dark in this country. Whether we like it, yes or no. As we stand by to rejoin Parliament, it is now 3:36 in Jamaica, 3:26 in Jamaica, 4:26 here in the United States. Jamaica is under hurricane watch, our tropical storm watch. The Marcus Garvey Road is impassable. Marcus Garvey Drive is impassable in Kingston. It is flooded and is impassable. The drains have not been cleaned. Our country, we have put some people in the Parliament of Jamaica who I wonder sometimes, what are we doing? Do they have the interest of the people of heart? Let's go back to the Parliament of Jamaica. But we must remind Mrs. Holness that the Parliament belongs to the people, not her.
So members, member, that's not how the speaker operates. So I'm going to say it for the final time. Your question must be as it relates to the statement that was made by Minister today. Your question must be exactly in keeping with the statement by Minister. That is the ruling. Your question should not be questions about National Works Agency, Ministry of Health, and all the other ministries that this minister is not responsible for. All your questions must be questions in respect of his statement and ministry. So this is my last time. And that is a ruling of the speaker. Member from St. Mary, Southeast.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The minister, in his statement, said this administration is one that puts the concept of
Just go
joined up
straight to the question,
government.
member.
Is the minister aware of outstanding amounts?
Member, please take your seat. Please take your seat.
Hey!
Please take your seat.
Madam Bully talking to her son. What a thing going on in Jamaica's parliament today. Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin has taken over Jamaica. And their wife is in the parliament. Serve on her right. Will never object to her being speaker. I serve on her damn right.
Members, are there any other questions in respect of the statement by Minister? Are there any other questions? The member from St. James West Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, my question to the Minister is about the preparedness protocols of the relevant ministries and agencies. Where can they be accessed?
The member from Westmoreland Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. There's a question to the Minister. Quickly, Minister, will there be, in the light of the impending disaster, will there be any emergency funding being made available to satisfy like drain cleaning and stuff like that, knowing that we're still in the hurricane season?
Are there any other questions? Minister. Oh, you have another one?
Madam Speaker, I am here on behalf of the residents of Southeast St. Andrew who are anxious because 4 weeks ago, when we had heavy rains,
what is your question?
I'm coming to it.
No,
I am coming
ask
to
your
my
question.
I am coming to my question.
Members, it is very evident. It is very evident. Members, it is very evident that the questions are not in respect of the statement by Minister. The member from Westmoreland Western, from Westmoreland Central, his question was not in respect of a statement made by the Minister, and neither is this question being asked by, neither is this being asked by the member from St. Andrew Southeast.
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Members, there's a question from the Leader of Opposition, the member from St. Andrew South.
I'm very concerned by the way in which the proceedings are being conducted. We are attempting to ask questions. We are attempting to ask questions arising from the statement. The statement was a wide-ranging statement. It not only touched and concerned the specific minister's portfolio, he also said he was speaking on behalf of the Minister of Local Government, who is overseas, who has direct responsibility for disaster preparedness. On more than one occasion, the member on this side who was sought to ask a question has been prevented from completing the question, and instead a point of order has been taken, which I don't know what the ruling was, or you yourself have intervened to prevent the statement, the question from being asked. I want to know what the question was that the member for Southeast St. Mary was seeking to ask. I don't know what his question is.
Member.
This is, yes, walk out of the parliament. I don't blame you. No. Walk out. There you have it. Members of the People's National Party has walked out. This is breaking news. Breaking news, Jamaica.
If we have no other questions, announcements.
This is Make We Talk breaking news.
The opposition members of parliament has walked out of the parliament. They have been prevented by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mrs. Juliet Holness, from asking questions. That's news just coming into our news center. Opposition members of parliament in Jamaica has walked out of the Parliament of Jamaica. They are being prevented from asking questions by the Speaker of the House, Mrs. Juliet Holness.
Laid on the table of the House are the following: annual report and audited financial statements for eGov Jamaica Limited for the financial year 2024-2025. The National Housing Trust Housing Benefits Special Selection for Catherine Estates Housing Development Batch 1 Order 2025, Masmere Flats Housing Development Order 2025, and Industrial Cove Manor Housing Development Order 2025 under the National Housing Trust Act. Jamaica Public Bodies First Supplementary Estimates of Revenue and Expenditure for the year ending March 2026. Jamaica Second Supplementary Estimates 2025-2026. The Auditor General's Department Certified Appropriation Accounts under Head 4000B for the Ministry of Labor and Social Security for the year 2014-2015, and finally under Head 51000C, Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries for the year 2021-2022. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Clark. Bills brought from the Senate. Petitions. Papers. Reports from committees. Notices of motions given orally.
Madam
The member
Speaker,
from St. Catherine
Southwest.
Southwest.
Madam Speaker, I wish to give notice that the next sitting of the House shall move. Whereas Section 39, subsection A, subsection B of Jamaica Constitution, Order in Council 1962, states that, subject to provision of Section 40 of this Constitution, any person who at the date of this appointment or nomination for election, A, is a Commonwealth citizen of age or between 21 years or upwards, and B, has been ordinary resident in Jamaica for the immediate preceding 12 months, shall be qualified to be appointed as a senator or elected as a member of the House of Representatives, and no other person shall be qualified. And whereas the current voting age in Jamaica is 18 years, and whereas Section 40, subsection 2, subsection 8 states, no person shall be qualified to be appointed as senator or elected as member of parliament, a member of the House of Representatives, who is, by virtue of his own act, under any acknowledgement of allegiance, obedience, or adherence, to a foreign power or state. And whereas the Supreme Court of Jamaica interprets this to mean even the renewal of a passport by an individual born in a foreign country to be by Jamaican parents, and whereas circumstances have changed since the adoption of this Constitution in 1962, which has seen several amendments, and whereas a Jamaican should never be deprived of an opportunity to be elected to his House of Representatives by reason of holding a foreign passport. Be it resolved that Section 38, subsection A, be it resolved that Section 39, subsection A of the Constitution be amended to read, is a Commonwealth citizen of the age of 18 years or upwards. Be it further resolved that Section 40, subsection 2, subsection A of the Constitution be deleted.
Thank you, member. Minister, you have a stay. Yes, it's your turn now, Mr. Terrelong. Could you turn your mic on, please?
I don't know for this. Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, thank you, sir. Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move the following motion. Whereas this Honorable House has on the past 16 occasions approved a motion in support of Cuba's resolution submitted in the United Nations General Assembly entitled Necessity of Ending the Economic, Commercial, and Financial Embargo imposed by the United States of America against Cuba. And whereas the 63-year-old policy of economic blockade remains in place, despite the fact that 187 member states of the United Nations, including Jamaica, representing the vast majority of the international community, voted last year in favor of the resolution. And whereas there are no formal and normal banking relations between Cuba and the United States, with implications for relations with the international banking system. And whereas there are no formal, and whereas the restrictions on Cuba's international financial transactions including those with multilateral organizations for cooperation with the island, have intensified with the implementation of the blockade policy. And whereas, despite the re-establishment of diplomatic relations in 2015, tourism from the United States to Cuba effectively remains illegal, with limited flights to only the capital city, Havana, and hotels remain off limits under companies linked. Tighten the blockade against Cuba with amendments to the Cuban Assets Control Regulations to impose increased restrictions on travel, the processing of remittances, and hotel accommodation properties in 2019 and 2020. And whereas the United States on May 15th, 2020,
This is Make We Talk breaking news.
For those who are just joining us, this is Make We Talk live stream. The opposition People's National Party in Jamaica has walked out of the parliament in protest of Mrs. Juliet Holness refusing that opposition members ask questions to Matthew Samuda. That's the opposition People's National Party in the House of Representatives in Jamaica has walked out of the parliament. The Speaker of the House, the wife of the Prime Minister, Mrs. Juliet Holness, preventing them from asking questions to Matthew Samuda. This is Make We Talk breaking news.
This is Make We Talk breaking news.
norms governing international trade and freedom of movement and navigation. And whereas international humanitarian law prohibits any embargo of raw materials for food and medicine, even in wartime, and Cuba continues to be unable to provide trade, even food and medicine, with subsidiaries of United States companies in third-party countries. And whereas the United States has broadened the restricted list of Cuban entities and sub-entities that are the object of additional tax sanctions due to blockade regulations. And whereas the continuation of the blockade during the pandemic worsened the impact of the embargo, in particular with efforts to procure vaccines and material for producing its own vaccines, which are the best way to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas the economic, commercial, and financial blockade constitutes the principal obstacle for the development of the Cuban economy and hinders the implementation of the country's national plan for economic and social development, as well as the United Nations Agenda 2030 and its sustainable development goals. And whereas Jamaica's national interests are concerned with the impact of the continuation of the blockade and the extraterritorial application of the United States laws regulating transactions between Jamaica and Cuba directly and indirectly. And whereas governments committed to the norms of the multilateral trading system, to the freedom of trade and navigation, to the principles of the Charter of the United Nations, to international law, a natural result that this House express itself on the morality, legality, and desirability of this decades-old blockade against Cuba and call for renewed dialogue between the United States of America and Cuba and for the lifting of the United States embargo against Cuba. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion.
Thank you. Questions and answers to questions? Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to the sitting of the House. Motions for leave to introduce bills. Presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained. Public business. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I will commence public business by concluding the debate, which commenced on the 7th of October, 2025, concerning the establishment of several parliamentary committees. We would have gotten various interventions, and as such, I now bring this debate to a close, just to indicate that in starting the debate, we did suspend the standing orders, and the convention has been to indicate that notwithstanding standing order 63.3 in relation to ministers of state, and to highlight that this is a long-held convention. Those are my closing. Madam Speaker, I beg that the motions, notice of which were given on the 7th of October 2025, be approved.
The question is that the motion which was given notice of be now approved. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, let me join with you in welcoming the Cuban ambassador to our parliament. As you would have heard the motion, and as such, as the ambassador is still with us, I'm going to ask Minister Terrelong to take the motion of which he gave earlier.
Thank you, House Leader. Minister Terrelong, before you take the motion, I will indicate in respect of your request to, notwithstanding the standing orders, speak in Spanish in solidarity with Cuba to be able to do so. So suspension of standing orders in that regard. You may proceed on the public business, Minister Terrelong.
Thank you, Minister. Minister
Terrelong, hold a moment. Just
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Please take a look, Minister. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
Thank you, Minister. The question is that the standing orders be suspended to enable the Minister to take the motion, notice of which he gave earlier. Those in favor? Those against? Minister, you may now commence the debate.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. And in advance, let me also indicate my thanks for the indulgences to which you have extended. No doubt the ambassador of Cuba is, in fact, very appreciative as well. Madam Speaker, I wish to thank you for facilitating the piloting of this traditional parliamentary motion on the need to end the economic, commercial, and financial embargo imposed by the United States against Cuba. I have the distinguished honor to introduce this very important motion, one that all members of this honorable House hold dear to their hearts. Please allow me, Madam Speaker, to reaffirm the close, long-standing, and active relationship which Jamaica enjoys with Cuba, its closest geographic neighbor, with whom it shares strong diplomatic and cultural ties. I must assure this honorable House that the government of Jamaica remains opposed to the unilateral application of economic and trade measures by one state against another that would obstruct the conduct of commercial activity, trade, and economic cooperation. It is important, Madam Speaker, to note that the decision of the United States to keep Cuba on its list of countries not cooperating fully in its fight against terrorism, while simultaneously maintaining its designation as a state sponsor of terrorism remains in absolute contrast to the principles of international law, the sovereign equality of states, non-interference in the internal affairs of states, and the right to self-determination and peaceful coexistence. Madam Speaker, I wish to take this opportunity to highlight the importance of all members of the United Nations adhering to the Charter of the United Nations and international law, including international humanitarian law. The government of Jamaica has refused to promulgate any law, legislation, or measure that would infringe on the sovereignty of a state or its lawful national interests. Madam Speaker, Jamaica therefore supports the renewed call for Cuba's removal from the United States list of countries considered a state sponsor of terrorism. There is no doubt that unjustifiably maintaining Cuba on the list of state sponsors of terrorism limits opportunities for collaboration and cooperation within the region to address pressing and intersecting challenges of our time. Such collaboration would significantly benefit the people of Cuba and the people of Jamaica. Jamaica also calls for the lifting of the embargo against Cuba. The embargo has exacerbated the current and long-standing challenges being faced by the country and has had far-reaching implications that disproportionately affects the Cuban people and economy, negatively impacting aspects of their lives, including access to essential goods and services. It is morally indefensible to impose such suffering on innocent civilians in efforts to isolate and weaken the Cuban government. The government of Jamaica applauds Cuba's remarkable achievements and advancements in healthcare and medical research, despite these challenges, and its unwavering commitment to deepen South-South cooperation amongst developing countries. The government also commends the commitment and tenacity of the Cuban people and underscore that Cuba stands as a testament of resilience and innovation and an inspiring example of strength and determination. The United Nations General Assembly, through its annual resolutions, which receive overwhelming support, has consistently called for the lifting of the embargo. Madam Speaker, it must also be recalled that the Jamaican Parliament has a tradition of supporting the motion calling for the lifting of the economic, commercial, and financial embargo imposed by the United States. This is a position consistently taken in Jamaica. It is also recalled that Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, reiterated Jamaica's support for Cuba in his policy statement at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly during the just concluded high-level week in New York in September. In his address, the Prime Minister emphasized that multilateralism must deliver fairness for all. He reiterated Jamaica's call for constructive dialogue and engagement, which offer the best path forward for the people of Cuba to fully participate in the global economy. The Prime Minister also encouraged continued domestic reform in Cuba and greater integration of Cuba into international systems, supported by policies that enable progress for the country rather than isolation. The United Nations General Assembly will once again, on the 28th to the 29th of October 2025, vote on the resolution. Jamaica's permanent representative to the United Nations will, as is customary, demonstrate Jamaica's solidarity with Cuba through a statement during the debate. Jamaica will support the resolution as a concrete reflection of Jamaica's long-standing relationship and solidarity with the Cuban people. In this regard, Madam Speaker, I have the honor of presenting this parliamentary motion for adoption by this honorable House. The motion represents a technical update to that which was adopted in October last year. Madam Speaker, I look forward to the Parliament continuing its tradition of adopting this very important motion. I thank you.
The member from St. Mary West.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is well known that Cuba and the United States are good neighbors to Jamaica. They are great neighbors, as a matter of fact. And Jamaica has benefited equally from both our neighbors. Indeed, as beneficiaries, it therefore is our duty to continue to increase our role as mediators in bringing both of our neighbors to the table to work out a deal so that they too can say that they are good neighbors with each other. Indeed, there are hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans living in the United States, and there are hundreds of Jamaicans living in Cuba. Many Jamaicans know Cuba as an ancestral home, have relatives there, and many of our citizens have studied in Cuba equally as in the United States. Jamaica, therefore, has a responsibility with the good relations with both countries to make some offers. We should not only be benefiting from both countries, but we should also offer to help in areas where we have excelled. Example, sports, in tourism, in farming. Jamaica should continue to be that mediator to bring the United States and Cuba to the table. Indeed, Madam, as we in St. Mary wake up, especially in the Prospect Tower Isle area, on a bright and clear day, or in Montreal, we can see the outlines of Santiago de Cuba. And in the Carinal area, is you turn on a radio, you are easier to find a Cuban radio station than a Jamaican radio station. So that the relations are deep. Indeed, all of my aunts and uncles were born in Cuba. So it is close to me because my maternal grandmother and her husband made a life for themselves in Cuba. So that as good neighbors, we don't want to pick a side. We would want to bring both sides together to develop good neighborly relations. And it's in that basis why we always support this resolution and ask others to support it and hope that good sense will prevail and that Jamaica will play that increasingly larger mediation role. Thank you.
Next to make a contribution is the member from St. Catherine, West Central.
Thank you very much, Madam.
After which is the member from St. James, West Central.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, colleagues. Just would like to lend my voice to the need for a resolution of this matter by outlining the importance to Jamaica and the Jamaican people of the Cuban agreement, Cuban Brigade, Medical Brigade program that has been part of our landscape for some time. Madam Speaker, we currently have just about 300 Cuban healthcare professionals on the island now as we speak. Most are nurses, but we do have doctors and we have um, medical doctors within different categories, particularly in eye care. Uh, they are spread out across the country, Madam Speaker, and in some instances, they play a critical role where there is little or no replacement in terms of administration of this type of care. So the specialist nurses, the eye care unit at St. Joseph's Hospital, which does quite a bit of work, seeing hundreds of patients on a weekly basis. Uh, there is absolutely no doubt or no debating the value of this program as it relates to healthcare administration. And it is something that, as a government, and I believe successive governments, we are extremely grateful for. The program benefits in several ways from the exposure, the experience, and as said earlier, the training of even Jamaicans who go to Cuba to train in this field. And therefore, it is certainly in Jamaica's interest and certainly healthcare interest to have this program maintained and continued. We are now in the process of negotiating a new MOU. As it turns out, that period of the previous MOU has expired. And so there is a conversation that is taking place now between the respective technocrats, both at the level of the Ministry of Health and Wellness, but also at the level of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, and of course on the Cuban side at the level of the embassy here. We had a team from Jamaica, headed by the Permanent Secretary in Health and Wellness, supported by Finance, Ministry of Finance and Foreign Affairs, that traveled to Cuba recently and continued those discussions. And in the most recently, I think over the last couple of weeks, those conversations have continued. We are hoping that we can reach a resolution on the new MOU, and we are looking forward to that. We have made some progress, or should I say significant progress, but there are one or two issues that we're still trying to address or to resolve. In the meantime, the program continues to work and play a critical role. And we do hope that in the wider context of the hemisphere and the relationship between Cuba and the US, there is a similar type of discussion that can and will take place in an attempt to bring resolution and to add to what is very important, international or certainly regional collaboration to provide the health and safety and wellness of the population of the region, the Americas, the Caribbean, and indeed the world. The final point I want to raise, Madam Speaker, is a slight deviation, and I hope you'll indulge me, that the ambassador for Cuba representing that country in Jamaica is on his final lap to return home. And I want to just use the parliament and use the opportunity to thank him for his service and representation. He has been always available, easy to talk to, and has really represented well. And I want to, on your behalf and on our behalf, wish him all the very best as he move on to do other things. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, around this time of year, every year, a resolution is submitted to the United Nations General Assembly calling for the ending of the economic, commercial, and financial embargo imposed by the United States of America against Cuba. And for as long as I have been a member of the Houses of Parliament, Jamaica has expressed itself on the desirability of continuing the blockade. And Jamaica has voted in solidarity with Cuba and other member states of the United Nations in support of an end to the blockade. Madam Speaker, we live in a time when many believe that might is right. But for as long as we subscribe to the rule of law, there will always be a place for Jamaica to raise its voice in support of the people of Cuba on this matter. Madam Speaker, for reasons already stated, what exists is simply wrong. And the people of Cuba are the ones who suffer as a result of the decision taken by governments. And sometimes decisions are taken in the belief that good will come. But over time, the evidence is clear that the people of Cuba have suffered disproportionately and unjustly as a result of this blockade. Cuba has been a good friend to Jamaica, and our people are better off for that friendship. In its own way, Cuba has come to the assistance of Jamaica in the field of medicine and other areas, resulting in good to the people of Jamaica. And so I join in supporting this motion and in expressing my own support for the resolution that will come up for a vote around October 28 and 29 in the General Assemblies of the United Nations. Madam Speaker, it is entirely indefensible for the embargo to continue. For as long as Jamaica has been an independent nation, this policy of economic blockade has been in place practically for the entire duration of independent Jamaica. And we believe that we should let our voices be heard, that we do not support it. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, member. To his feet, to close, would you be so kind as to turn your mic on, Minister? Remember the motion.
Madam Speaker, I wish to thank.
Hold a moment, Minister. Remember to move the motion to close the debate, please.
Yes. Member. I crave your indulgence, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I now wish to conclude the debate on the motion.
The question is that the motion notice of which the minister gave earlier be approved. Those in favor? Those against? You may conclude.
Madam Speaker, in concluding the motion, I wish to thank the members who have joined their voices in support of the motion. Madam Speaker, having noted the presence of the ambassador of Cuba and having noted that his fellow people of Cuba pay special attention to this motion every year, I wish to indicate for the benefit of the ambassador and the people of Cuba that Jamaica siga siendo un buen vecino y amigo a la gente y el gobierno cubano. nuestra historia y amistad ha sido lleno del apoyo de Cuba en muchos aspectos, especialmente
Hold on a moment, member from St. Catherine Southwest. The standing orders were suspended in order to allow. No, not only, member. I'm not sure if you had stepped out of the chamber at the time, but leeway was granted by the speaker to allow specifically for him to speak in Spanish, to speak in a language. Yes, member.
Don't cut up my mic. Don't cut up, please.
Member, I did not turn your mic on at all. Could you start from the beginning?
I'm not aware of what he's saying. I don't speak Spanish. And the standing order that is written for this house, you must speak in English and English only. I have no idea what he's saying, and I'm entitled to understand what is being said in this house by any member. I don't speak Spanish, and this said I must hear it in English. Okay? Are you supposed to learn Spanish and come back?
Thank you for your intervention, member. So, members, he is correct in respect of the language allowed by Standing Order 6. However, the member asked previously, and member, so he would have to speak in both language, English, and the same would be said in Spanish. And member, the standing order said the proceedings and debates of the House shall be in English language. All right, every petition shall be in the English language. That is Standing Order 6. However, member, you may have stepped out of the House. Before the member started the debate, before he began reading the resolution, he asked previously, and it was put to the House to allow him to speak in another language, which was Spanish, in solidarity with our, yes, he did. And I did. And it was so moved, separate and apart from the suspension of the standing orders for the motion itself. So yes, member, it was done. Member, Minister Terrelong, please recommence. Please, for the benefit of the member, from St. Catherine Southwest, since I do not speak Spanish either, when you indicate your statement in Spanish for the benefit and solidarity of our sisters, brother country here and present in Parliament today and listening to us from Cuba, they will be able to appreciate very clearly our solidarity and the suspension of the standing orders that was done in that respect for them on this occasion, and then repeat same in English for the benefit of Hansard and all members seated here who speak only English. So ruled by the Speaker. Thank you, member. Minister, you may proceed. Please turn on your mic.
Again, Madam Speaker, I thank you for the indulgences that you have extended. And I would have indicated, and the House, by extension, having moved the resolution earlier, and again, Madam Speaker, for the benefit of the ambassador and the people of Cuba, I do know that they too are grateful. Madam Speaker, I wish to indicate for the benefit of the people of Cuba who I know are listening to this very important show of solidarity, Madam Speaker, that Jamaica siga siendo un buen vecino y amigo a la gente del gobierno cubano. Nuestra historia y amistad ha sido lleno del apoyo de Cuba en muchos aspectos, especialmente en educación y la asistencia médica. Por todo lo que Cuba ha hecho, no solo por Jamaica, pero por todo el mundo, Jamaica siempre va a negociar por el fin de este bloqueo ilegal. Jamaica siempre está al lado del gobierno y la gente cubano y para luchar contra el bloqueo, para nuestra amistad. Madam Speaker, I wish to indicate for the benefit of those in the House that I have conveyed to the Cuban ambassador and the people of Cuba that Jamaica continues to be a good neighbor and friend to the people and government of Cuba, that our history and friendship has been a shared history full of assistance from Cuba across many aspects, especially in the fields of education and healthcare. For all that Cuba has done, not only for Jamaica, but for the world, Jamaica will continue to negotiate for the end of the illegal blockade against Cuba. In essence, my lady, and I thank you for your indulgences and that of the House entirely. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Please reread.
Madam Speaker, I now conclude the motion that has been mentioned and ask that the House approves the motion as a show of solidarity for our Cuban brothers and sisters.
Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Thank you. House Leader, I would like to recommit notices of motions given orally, and we will move straight into public business efficiently. House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move the following motion. Be it resolved that the second supplementary estimates for the financial year 2025-2026 and the Jamaica Public Body's first supplemental estimates of revenues and expenditure for the year ended March 2026 was laid on the table of the House on the 21st day of October 2025, be referred to the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee of the House of Representatives for consideration and report. Madam Speaker, I beg to further give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of standing orders to enable me to take this motion.
Continue, House Leader, straight into public business.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
The question is that the standing orders be suspended to enable the minister to take the motion, notice of which he gave earlier. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Minister.
Madam Speaker, as a result of the recent adjustment to the assignment of subjects and departments, agencies, and other public bodies following the September 2025 general elections, the Financial Administration and Audit Act, financial institutions require that a supplementary budget be prepared to address the budgetary allocations in respect of the changed entities during a fiscal year. Madam Speaker, I therefore table today, on behalf of the Minister with responsibility for finance, the central government's second supplementary estimates for the fiscal year 2025-2026, which will bring the 2025-2026 approved estimates of expenditure in line with the recent assignment of subjects and departments, agencies, and other public bodies, and ensure that essential budgetary resources are approved by Parliament to support the operations of the ministries, departments, and agencies as they now exist. Also being tabled is the first supplementary estimates for the public bodies. Madam Speaker, members, the adjustments have no material impact on the fiscal budget. The MDAs that are given up subjects reflect a reduction in their approved budgets, and the amounts reduced are reflected as increases in the MDAs to which the subjects have been assigned. Specifically, the central government's second supplementary estimate for 2025-2026 provides for the closure of heads 27,000, the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, Head 19046, the Forestry Department as a department of the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, and Head 15020, the former Registrar General's Department and Islands Records Office. Head 19,000, the renaming of the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation as the Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development, and the transfer of the water portfolio. Head 22,000, established as the Ministry of Water, Environment, and Climate Change, and assigned responsibility for the water portfolio, including weather services and climate services. Head 26,000, the renaming of the Ministry of National Security as the Ministry of National Security and Peace. Head 28,000, the renaming of the Ministry of Justice as the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, with the assignment of responsibility for legal and constitutional affairs. Head 69,000, the renaming of the Ministry of Science, Energy, Transport, and Telecommunications as the Ministry of Energy, Transport, and Telecommunications, with the transfer of the science portfolio, the e-learning Jamaica Limited, and the tablets in school program. Head 41,000, the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth, and Information, to reflect the assignment of responsibility for e-learning Jamaica Limited and the tablets in school program. Head 26046, the Forestry Department, assigned a new head number 22046 to reflect its new status as a department under Head 22,000, the Ministry of Water, Environment, and Climate Change. Head 15,000, the Office of the Prime Minister, to reflect assignment of the science portfolio from Head 69,000. The establishment of Head 15063, the National Identification and Registration Authority, NERA, a new department of the Office of the Prime Minister established under the NERA Act of 2021, with responsibility for administering the National Identification System and carrying out the functions of the Registrar General as prescribed by the Act. Balance under the Registrar General's head is being transferred to this head. The first supplementary for the Jamaica Public Bodies estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year ending March 2026 reflects the changes in portfolio responsibilities of the following entities. The Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica, transferred from the Office of the Prime Minister to the Ministry of Education, Skills, Youth, and Information. The National Water Commission, transferred to the Ministry of Water, Environment, and Climate Change. Also, due to the change of name for some ministries, the overall balance for the self-financing public bodies falling under the portfolio of the former Ministry of Science, Energy, Telecommunications, and Transport is now reflected under the Ministry of Energy, Transport, and Telecommunications. And the overall balance for the self-financing public bodies falling under the portfolio of the former Minister of Economic Growth and Job Creation is now reflected under the Ministry of Economic Growth and Infrastructure Development. Madam Speaker, I now ask that the meeting of the House be suspended Madam Speaker, I now ask that the motion be approved.
Thank you, House Leader. The question is that the motion be approved. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. House Leader? Mike, House Leader?
Madam Speaker, I now ask that the meeting of the House be suspended to enable the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee of the House of Representatives to meet to consider the second supplementary estimates for the financial year 2025-2026 and the Jamaica Public Body's first supplementary estimates of revenues and expenditure for the year ending 2026.
The question is that the meeting of the House be suspended to enable the Public Administration and Appropriations Committee of the House of Representatives to meet to consider the second supplementary estimates for the year 2025-2026 and the Jamaica Public Body's first supplementary estimate of revenues and expenditure for the year ending March 2026. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. The meeting of the House is now suspended. Members on the committee may remain. Those who are not may take a break, or you may sit within the precincts but do not contribute to the discourse or any votes taken. You do not need to remove yourself from the chamber. I am now going to call the members. So we are in committee, even though I'm sitting here. Members of the PAAC are Mr. Peter Bunting, Chair, Mr. Andrew Morris, MP, Mr. Hero Clark, MP, Juliet Holness, MP, Delroy Williams, MP, Mrs. Marissa Dalrymple Philibert, MP, Mr. C. Everard Warmington, MP, Ms. Crystal Lee, MP, Mr. Michael Phillips, MP, Ms. Nikisha Burchell, MP, Mr. Omar Newell, MP, and Mr. Damian Crawford, MP. Those are the members that constitute the committee. As I said, other members of parliament seated in the precinct may remain if they so choose to do so. Heroy, if you don't mind, please, please come a little closer. Where's the clerk? Committee clerk? How are you? All right.
Good afternoon, members and our guests. All right, so we will be electing a chairman for today's PAAC's meeting. Members, the chairman. Okay, so we'll be nominating a temporary chair. Yes, a temp for today's meeting. So
I
hold
I wish to nominate Ms. Sarah Clark to be chairman of this PAAC session.
I beg to second that nomination.
Okay, so I've heard the nominations, right? And that is in standing with the standing orders, number 77-2. Are there any other nominations before we proceed? No. There being no other nomination, members, we now would ask the member-elect to sit right here beside of me, the committee clerk, to chair our meeting for today. Member Clark.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is indeed the pleasure of mine to chair this session of the PAAC, as we are well aware that we have to continue with the business of the nation. And so at this time, I will now call this meeting to order. I will ask member from Central Clarendon to pray for us.
Let's pray. Oh, Heavenly Father, we want to ask for your guidance as we deliberate in this sitting, and ask for your guidance as we deliberate towards making a decision. Thank you very much.
Amen. Are there any apologies for absence? Are there any apologies for absence? There is none. We continue. Let me take this time to welcome us once again, especially those new members coming to PAAC for the very first time. I hope you will find it very, very interesting, and your contribution will always go down well. Once again, I also say welcome to members who have been here before and knows exactly what is asked of them. Also, let me take time out to welcome members from the ministry and different technocrats that are here with us this afternoon. Welcome once again to the first sitting of this term's PAAC meeting, and to our continued supporting staff from Parliament. We welcome you today. Consideration of the second supplementary estimates of expenditure for the financial year 2025-2026 is now in front of us.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think there's anything controversial in what we have here. It's basically transfer from one ministerial agency to another based on the realignment of ministries and agencies. So I don't think we need to have much deliberation. So the tasks that we go through, taking page by page, and just conclude. There's no addition or deduction, it's just transfer. We approved this already in a regular budgetary process. So the tasks was just to go through page by page. Take it page by page.
So there are some updates that we would like to hear from the Financial Secretary. The changes that reflects in the second supplementary estimate 2025-2026 are head number 1900.
Going to say to you, it's just what is written here. And we said that already. So why subject
So
her
are
to
we? So
update?
remember, you're asking that we take them en bloc.
Page by page. You can subject her to
So if
we're
there's
reading
no,
what is there
if
already.
there's no changes to
Just transfer from one ministry to the other.
Okay.
One agent to the other. Unless you want to, just nice it up for us.
Madam.
Sorry, if I may. So this is a PAAC, not the Standing Finance Committee. So we don't take the page by page. It's just if there are any questions or any issues around what has been provided.
And there are none. So we can just take it en bloc. So the request is on the floor that we accept the second supplementary estimate 2025-2026 en bloc. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
We also have the first supplementary of the public bodies, sir.
Any questions?
I guess you can treat it likewise.
If there are no other question or commentary, then we know the request is on the floor that we take the matter en bloc. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. Any other business? If there is no other business, then we now ask for this meeting to be adjourned. Those in favor? Those against? Ayes have it. This meeting now stands adjourned. So the meeting was asked to be adjourned by member from St. Catherine, seconded by Christian.
Ladies and gentle people of the Make We Talk program, it seems as if there is something going on in the parliament. It has nothing to do with the Make We Talk program. Obviously, there is some tension growing between the People's National Party members and the opposition and the government members. So there you have it. There is an item of news coming into us right here on the Make We Talk program.
This is Make We Talk breaking news. This is Make We Talk breaking news.
An application for permission to seek judicial review of the decision not to validate the September 3rd general election in St. Andrew, West Central, is scheduled to be heard by the Supreme Court next month, July 18th. That's the case between the People's National Party and the Jamaica Labour Party as Prime Minister Andrew Holness, St. Andrew, West Central constituency. It will be heard in the Supreme Court of Jamaica on November 18th. The date was set during a case management hearing in the Supreme Court on Tuesday. An application for permission to seek judicial review of the decision not to validate the September 3rd general election in St. Andrew, West Central is scheduled to be heard by the Supreme Court next month. The November 18th date was set during a case management hearing in the Supreme Court of Jamaica in downtown Kingston on Tuesday. So the Supreme Court will be hearing the results of the September 3rd election in St. Andrew, West Central, the constituency of Andrew Holness and Mr. Buchanan. You know, Mr. Buchanan went up against him. So there you have it. The case will be heard. The Supreme Court has given a date for November 18th. So there you have it. An application for permission to seek judicial review of the decision not to validate the September 3rd general election in St. Andrew, West Central is scheduled to be heard by the Supreme Court next month. The November 18th date was set during a case management hearing in the Supreme Court in downtown Kingston on Tuesday. So there you have it. There will be a hearing in the election, the September 3rd election in St. Andrew, West Central, between the candidates of the Jamaica Labour Party, Andrew Holness, and the People's National Party, Mr. Buchanan. So there you have it.
This is Make We Talk breaking news.
There is, I don't know what's going on in the parliament. The Speaker of the House of Representatives and the Deputy Speaker, they're supposed to be back in the parliament. Obviously, there is some high-level meeting, I was told, behind closed doors in the parliament. I don't know between the People's National Party members and the government members. But based on what we're getting in our news center here this afternoon, that there is a high-level meeting on in the parliament right now with opposition members and the government. You know, earlier on this afternoon, members of the People's National Party, of the King's opposition, walked out of the parliament.
Corruption in politics is deep rooted, and I just saw it said, and nothing can do about that. But actually,
walked out of the parliament due to the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mrs. Juliet Holness, not granting them permission to ask questions in the parliament. Opposition members are asking questions of Matthew Samuda, the Minister of Water, and also acting as local government minister in the absence of Desmond McKenzie. The Speaker of the House, Juliet Holness, refused to grant opposition members of parliament to ask questions of Mr. Matthew Samuda. So, the opposition People's National Party, led by leader Mark Jefferson Golding, and president of the People's National Party, staged a walk out of the parliament this afternoon. So, for those who are just joining us, opposition leader Mark Jefferson Golding, along with other members of the opposition, walked out of the Parliament of Jamaica this afternoon. Mrs. Juliet Holness, Speaker of the House of Representatives, will not allow opposition members to ask questions within the walls of the Parliament. And so, opposition marched out of the Parliament following hearing heated exchange over hurricane relief. They're asking questions because Matthew Samuda came to the parliament to update the parliament on the inclement weather that is facing the country. He also speaks on the behalf of government member Desmond McKenzie, who's the Minister of Local Government. So a question was posed to Mr. Matthew Samuda pertaining to that. The Speaker of the House of Representatives refused the member from Eastern St. Mary from asking the question. That led to Mr. Golding taking to his feet and raising displeasure of what is going on in the Parliament. Upon his speech to the Parliament of Jamaica, the King's opposition decided to walk out of the Parliament of Jamaica. So there you have it. Opposition leader Mark Jefferson Golding led a march out of the Parliament of Jamaica following heated exchange over hurricane reading. For those who are just joining us, that's the news coming in. That is the news this afternoon. The opposition People's National Party has walked out of the Parliament of Jamaica. Opposition People's National Party has walked out of the Parliament of Jamaica. Mrs. Holness, who is the Speaker of the House, refused to allow opposition members to ask Matthew Samuda questions relating to drain cleaning on other issues facing this country. Mr. Matthew Samuda was speaking on behalf, in one of his presentations, he said he was speaking on behalf of government minister, local government minister, Desmond McKenzie's overseas and personal business. Upon that, members of the opposition decided to ask questions based on what Mr. Matthew Samuda said, and the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mrs. Juliet Holness, will not allow members of the opposition to ask questions pertaining to what Matthew Samuda said. So, in all, the opposition leader took to his feet to file his disgust against what is going on in the parliament. What the opposition leader did was to walk out of the parliament. He led a walk out of the parliament this afternoon after heated exchange between the opposition members and the speakers of the House, and sometime also with Everett Warmington. Jamaica is at a crossroad. And if we all can't realize that, then when are we going to see what's going on in this country? This country is on the eve of a dictator takeover. Jamaica is becoming a banana republic. It cannot be that opposition members of parliament are not allowed to ask questions within the walls of the parliament, and the Jamaican people must send a clear message to Mrs. Holness that the Parliament of Jamaica don't belongs to you, Juliet Holness. It belongs to the people of Jamaica. Yes, you're going by the standing order, but within the statement that was given to the Parliament by Matthew Samuda, based on that statement, the member from Eastern St. Mary was asking a question based on that. And for you, Madam Speaker, to refuse the member from asking questions on behalf of the people of Eastern St. Mary, you are telling the people of Eastern St. Mary and the wider Jamaica that their representative can't ask any question in the Parliament of Jamaica. And that should not be. So opposition leader Mark Jefferson Golden led a walkout of the Parliament of Jamaica by all members of the opposition side got up and followed their leader and walk out. We are in some serious times in this country, as I said before. And if we as Jamaican citizens don't wake up in Jamaica, then all of this is going to continue. Every single thing that goes on in the Parliament of Jamaica is going to continue in this country. When you have a Speaker of the House feeling as if she's Madam Bully, and the people of this country sit idly by and allow the Speaker of the House to continue this way, the opposition should lead a protest calling for the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Mrs. Juliet Holness, Juliet Anne Marie Holness, wife of Jamaica's Prime Minister, to step aside. She have done this before, and she continue doing this. And it's full time the people of this country demand that Juliet Holness step aside as Speaker of the House of Representatives. Apparently, the Parliament should be in session. The Parliament should be in session. And obviously, what we're seeing on our screen here is that the Parliament is not in session. Members of Parliament are sitting down. So obviously, there is what I'm being told, that there is a high-level meeting between the opposition leader, the Prime Minister, the Speaker, the Deputy Speaker, and other clerk of the House of Parliament. It's unconfirmed in what I'm getting here. What we will do, we haven't seen anything more from the Parliament. What we will do now is break away from that, get ourselves prepared to come on this evening to speak some more about what is going on in the parliament. So I'm going to break away from that because I am not seeing where the parliament is in session. So hold a minute for me. All right, ladies and gentlemen on this platform, students on this platform here, join me back. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. I will be back on at about 7:30 US time. That's 6:30 Jamaica time, okay? So join me back then. Until you hear my voice again, I'm Jeffrey Tavares saying so long.
When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk, people. When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk.